All right, Keith here. I'm in the Rebel Civics mobile studio at Porkfest with Aran. Porkfest is the longest running libertarian event in America, only because they were the only event that had the guts to have it when the COVID was in place. So the Free State Project people, kudos to them for figuring out that we were being lied to earlier than most other people.
Yeah, and not only figuring it out, but doing something about it.
Actually holding an event with a couple thousand people. So Aran and I met last year at Porkfest, the previous Porkfest with his dad. We became friends, and in Porkfest fashion, we stopped on the way home in Pennsylvania on our way back to Florida and got to know him a little bit. And he camped with us at our site this year. We're going to stop on the way back and see your parents again.
Mm-hmm. And they're very excited. Keith and Renata are always welcome at our family home.
So the story we want to talk about the schools here. So Aran was homeschooled up through 10th grade from I would say from infancy up through 10th grade.
Actually, I did attend a Waldorf school for 1 year.
For 1 year.
Yeah, when I was younger. It was like kindergarten, I think, like
kindergarten.
4 or 5. Year 4 or 5, yep.
And for anybody who's met homeschool kids at 23, it's be surprised. But anyway, and then the last 2 years he went to a government indoctrination camp, supposedly to get some physics and chemistry and some subject is
some biology. They told me some history, some of his story.
His story. So we're going to talk about schools, and at the age when most of his peers are just getting out of college, Aran being well ahead of most people by 10th grade because he was homeschooled, he already knew what the university system was doing to people. So instead of doing that, he went to an HVAC trade school. Then he worked for the man for a few years, saved up a bunch of money, and he's the age where most of his peers are just getting out of college with $100K in debt and a degree that they may or may not find a job. And he saved up enough money to go on an extended walkabout camping and go to Porkfest, and he's got his tools with him. And so anyway, Aran, welcome. And the first question I was going to ask is, what do you think of Porkfest?
Well, thank you, Keith. Really appreciate all the kind words you just said there. You know, it feels good to hear those things, especially coming from someone as prolific and effective in most things as yourself. But yeah, Porkfest. This year was very different for me than last year.
And last year was a first.
Last year was a first, yeah. First year I ever went to Porkfest. But I felt last year I went to a lot of events. I went to a lot of talks, and it was great. I got to meet some great people, learn some really good information. But this year I focused more on the calmer side of things. Did some yoga and really just spent the week enjoying my time as opposed to trying to fit a lot of stuff in.
You know, there was somewhere in the neighborhood of 700 events here, so there's something for everybody. For people who aren't familiar with Porkfest, it's not considered in the United States. Basically, it's 3,000 liberty-minded people doing what they want and leaving everybody else alone. And people do a huge variety of things here. You can go to a talk by David Friedman on where rights come from, or you can go to yoga, and everything in between. We had a lot of interesting talks of all sorts of things, from rights to Frisbee to the right to keep and bear arms, like, say, shoulder-fired anti-tank missiles as an example of arms.
Even tanks, the right to drive around a tank. Like if you need to go to Walmart and you have a large purchase to pick up, may as well take your BTR 90.
Yeah, I think half a dozen people mentioned tanks to me, and was that covered by the Second Amendment? So that gets into an interesting discussion. But as far as school goes, like I said, that the people here that get into a discussion of rights and what they learned, and so I want to hear this whole experience with government school. So you want to start with the last 2 years of school when you were in the government camp, and you had an interesting word for it, which I didn't use.
Oh yeah, earlier, I think I called it a. Oh shoot, I can't remember. I'll remember
Okay.
once I get warmed up talking about it.
It was pretty triggering, so I didn't want to open with that.
That's all right. I
We
have lots of things to say that, might be a little upsetting to some people who have indeed attended some of these large rectangular boxes that you're supposed to learn in.
That you and what they actually do is lock you up for the day.
Lock you up for the day, no outside. They don't teach you how to forage for food. They don't teach you how to fix a car. Instead, you learn how to sit still. Yeah, no. Well, actually, they did teach that.
They did teach that?
I did learn how to file my taxes at high school.
Oh, that would be the number one thing, because probably the most important thing in government school is that you graduate just loving to pay your taxes.
And let me tell you, there were some kids who did really good on that assignment. However, I think I maybe got a C- on the tax filing.
Mm-hmm.
So that goes to show you what I thought of that class.
Okay. Yeah, I think a C-. I would think an F would be actually what most Porkfest people would say. Like, you should actually fail that in the government school eyes. I had a couple interesting conversations about taxes. We may or may not have talked about whether it's moral to lie on your tax return. We may or may not have talked about, is secession a good way to get out of taxes?
Secession. That's a good topic.
That's a good topic. We did notice the V-22 Osprey warship that went directly over the Liberty 101 classroom, flying slow in landing configuration with the motors up. There's nowhere around here to land an Osprey.
I beg to differ. I think that there are places around here to land.
In helicopter mode it could.
It probably could.
The best part of the conspiracy theory was that happened right in the middle of a talk called Escape Income Tax by Secession. So we don't know if they were recording or watching, but yeah.
Well, I'm fairly confident. I'm fairly confident that they had someone in the crowd who was like, all right, send a VTOL, fly it over.
Send a VTOL.
Oh my. Yeah, but back to the school thing, because I know that's one of the things that you wanted to talk about today, and definitely something I have a lot of strong feelings about.
So what did you learn in the government school?
Well, I learned that the final thing that I learned as I was walking across the stage during graduation ceremony in the year 2017, I walked across right behind a bunch of D and F students who were also handed the exact same diploma that I was handed. And while I had been at this, whatever you would call it, a box building or chamber of student holding, something like that.
Prison? Juvenile prison?
Yeah, something along those lines.
That might be slightly beyond. Well, you weren't allowed to leave. Right?
You weren't allowed to leave, and if you did try to leave, they did have a police officer who would tackle you to the ground and bring you back to the principal's office.
Really?
Yes, they did. Yeah, I think that this happened at least 3 or 4 times while I was going to school there.
All right. Well,
Yeah.
I was joking. I was at least a hashtag sarcasm on juvenile prisons, but maybe it's not that far off.
I hate to break it to you folks, but it's only gotten worse.
Yeah. And your homeschooling was when it was a real outlier, right? Like
I started homeschooling many years ago, probably in about 2006, 2007. And through that time, I definitely saw a large growth in the homeschooling community, but we were never even close to the size that it's at now, especially people related to the Libertarian groups and things like Porkfest. It's becoming much larger, and I do know New Hampshire has been working on a lot of state legislation to support homeschooling in the past several years.
And last year and the year before with COVID, the numbers of homeschooling is up a lot. When parents saw that they were forced to it, right? Their schools closed, so they start homeschooling, and it turns out, actually, this works pretty well. Why would we send them back there? Plus, a lot of parents got a whiff of the agenda. They happened to walk by and see the Zoom meeting and say, that's what you're teaching my kid?
Right. Yeah, I think that was a really big factor. And also, just the Zoom meetings in general. Learning from a computer is horrible. And to anyone who has been subjected to that, I do hope that you're able to recover, because that is a terrible way to learn and a terrible way to spend your time. Now, don't get me wrong, it's not always an issue sitting at a computer. My personal life, I have broken away from that. But when it's forced upon children, when it's forced upon little kids who should be outside playing in the grass, who should be climbing trees, who should be talking to their friends and helping their parents in the garden, that's when I see a real issue.
I talked to several kids at this. They call them free range kids. Like we first pull in,
Free-range kids.
Free range kids. They call them, like at Porkfest inside the campground. The people that are here, their kids are not the same as the kids I see at home. Like the first thing you notice is you pull in, and there's a little kid, 2, 3 maybe, with a couple other kids not much older than that, coming out of the playground, and we're pulling up with the camper. And I start slowing down, because you used to hold like school bus thing. Like 16-year-olds are not allowed in Florida to cross the street from the school bus. The traffic has to stop and they get off the bus, right? These kids, no, they knew, they stopped. And I started to wave them on, and my girlfriend says, "No, I think you can go. These kids know not to run in front of the car." They're homeschooled. I asked them, well, they're homeschooled. They're not being trained every day that they don't have to look before crossing the street. They knew.
Yeah. And that's one of the things I learned at homeschooling. I learned not to cross the street or otherwise endanger myself anywhere near moving vehicles. It's just common sense that you learn when you're not locked inside of classrooms all day, staring at a teacher, one person in one direction all day for 8 hours or more. And then, I will say something good about school.
Government school.
Government school, not homeschool. Homeschool is a very different topic.
There's more girls there?
Well, there's definitely more girls there.
Good.
The question is that the quality of the girls, in general, it's not quite up to homeschool standards.
Okay, never mind. Yeah, so the chance of running into a like-minded girl your age in the government school is lower.
Yeah, I had an experience with that. I actually dated a girl from my high school for 2 years, and it was nice, She was a nice girl. We got along well. We had some similar interests, did a lot of fun stuff together. But at the end of the day, we were so different, and especially with everything that's been happening in the past couple of years.
Like COVID really brings
COVID. It really
people.
Separated people. And for me, showed me a lot of what I liked about myself and what I wanted to focus on. So those things are things that she thought I was crazy for. So I was like, all right, I'm sorry, but it had to end. And I don't anticipate finding, a future wife or a long-time partner someone who came from one of those locations of government.
It's more likely to be a homeschool. A girl
probably a
who's
homeschooler, yeah. Or I don't know, maybe someone from another country, but yeah.
You were talking about podcasts earlier, like that you when you start learning stuff. So it's not like learning from a computer, but like you started naming podcasts that you.
Oh yes.
When you had a question, you just go and find a podcast with an expert on it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. In the last 4 to 5 years, I would say that I have learned more from podcasts than I did during the majority of my time as a student when I was younger. Really a self-directed learning.
Your parents were kind of self-directed. They guide and a lot of self-directed. And when we stayed there, I saw your younger brother. He's kind of thinking about different things. He'd sit and talk about interesting things, and your mom would say, okay, if that's what you want to study today, learn that.
Yeah, and that's absolutely how it was for a lot of the time with me as well. And even, in fact, for the last 2 years I was at home learning, I mostly directed myself. I had my essential classes like math and English and whatever else, and I would go to a co-op once or twice a week and have a class there with friends and hang out with people and get that social interaction. But yeah, for the most part, self-directed learning. And so when I finally got out of the education system,
Yes.
I was able to continue that. And in fact, not only able, but thrilled to continue learning, especially with access to such wonderful resources as you can acquire on the interwebs.
Yeah, you find a YouTube video on almost anything, or listen to a podcast that focuses on the subject. And yeah, and you were talking about learning about like solar, like taking your HVAC skills, that you spent.
Oh yeah.
Spent a few years working for the man before you not quite retired, but looking into something different.
Taking perhaps a little break from work.
So a sojourn, and he may or may not be picking up maybe work somewhere along the way that's nothing to do with the system, and yeah, so Porkfest is a place where you can talk about that. So I have to forget we're on YouTube now.
Forget where you need to. I see what you said. I see what you did.
But
there.
no, we may or may not have talked about private ownership of Tomahawk missiles and what to do on your taxes.
Yeah, what to do on your taxes, a really important question. And I think something that more and more people these days are concerned about, because when you look at a historical event like the tea incidents where they threw all the tea into the water, so long ago, right? So long ago, over what was it, 2%, 3% tax on the tea?
Yeah, there's no question the founders would have been throwing the tea in the water today.
I think they'd be throwing a lot more than the tea. In fact, they might have been throwing some of the politicians, actually.
Yes.
A couple of those as well, overboard.
I like to sometimes I'll say they start arguing about the protest, and like one person had a handgun at the protest. I say, well, George Washington would have brought 500 men and cannon to the protest.
Yeah, he would have had several cannon for sure, and likely a vast supply of gunpowder as well.
Gunpowder, right? Yeah, the cannon, they would have put out the call like, anybody that has a cannon, come on out. We're having a protest. I mean, that's what 1776 was like here. That's changed some.
That's
now.
what I've heard. I wasn't there, so I can't confirm. But I mean, maybe there's someone listening who can confirm if this was the case or not.
I'm pretty sure they did throw the tea in the water.
I think that definitely happened.
Yes.
But yeah, nowadays we should throw a lot more than the tea in the water. That's what I say.
And the first battle in the Revolutionary War, the war for American independence, was gun control. Was when General Gage was attempting to do gun control. He went to Lexington and Concord to take they were attempting to take the powder, and the people said, "No, you can't take our guns." So it was actually a gun control. It was resisting gun control is what started that war.
I see. So, on the topic of gun control and guns in general, I would just say that being at an event like Porkfest is really refreshing. It's a different view of what it means to carry a firearm and what it means to be around other people carrying a firearm.
And we're in New Hampshire, which is an open carry, permitless carry state. So the people that are here, kids at all ages, all walks of life, every type of person, like they don't bat an eye at a citizen with a sidearm, or an AR-15 over their shoulder.
Yeah, and AR-15s aren't the most common sight in New Hampshire when you go to the grocery store, but handguns are certainly quite prolific, and it's actually, I did live here for about 4 months, and it's quite odd to go out and not see someone carrying a handgun these days.
Like it would happen. New Hampshire grocery store is not a good place for a mass shooting, I would say.
I would say that New Hampshire is not a good place for a mass shooting.
It's it kind of it should bring to light for at least people to pay a little bit of attention. Like, how come New Hampshire isn't in the news every day for murder and mayhem? Like,
that's a very good question.
It's not related to the number of guns. Like, there's something different. So we could speculate on what it is, but the idea that gun ownership and carrying a gun is a problem, like, no. I mean, I formerly lived in New Jersey for many decades, where a lot of guns are illegal. You certainly can't get a carry permit. New Jersey is one of the few states that doesn't have the right to keep and bear arms in its state constitution. And I don't know if you've ever heard of a report about any violence in New Jersey. Like, that does sometimes make the news.
You know, the only real report of violence in New Jersey that I've heard is around the Philly area. You know, on the other side of the river from Philly. It seems
Camden.
Camden, yeah. Camden. Yeah, once or twice on your show, perhaps.
the city with I worked there for a while. The city with the highest murder rate per capita in America for many years, and no,
America
I'm not allowed
and
to carry
I would
there.
say more than several other countries as well. Probably one of the worst places you could spend a honeymoon or adjacent activity.
I have a friend who was a bartender that grew up in Mexico, in Ciudad Juarez. Like, that's one of the ones that has a bad rap.
Wow.
And so she grew up in Ciudad Juarez, and she said, well, yeah, there were some neighborhoods that when she was a little kid, you know, they had to learn, like, don't ride your bicycle through those neighborhoods, and don't get involved in the drug business is a good idea. And she said,
that's a good idea for kids. Don't get involved in that, guys. Not very healthy for you.
But as far as safety, so we were getting this conversation. I was saying, well, yeah, you always hear about Ciudad Juarez. And I did actually check. East St. Louis has a higher murder rate per capita. But anyway, she's telling me all this. And I said, yeah, that must be tough growing up. And she says, yeah, you have to be careful where you go. And when she was like a high school, late teen, they moved to Miami. And I said, oh, that must have been so good, getting out of there and going to Miami. She said, her reaction was like, No, Miami's way more dangerous than Ciudad Juarez.
Oh, my goodness.
That's what she said. And she was shocked that I would think that Ciudad Juarez was more dangerous than Miami.
Well, that's definitely a big contrast, yeah. It makes sense, though.
She had to be more careful. And she's Mexican, Spanish speaker, and fluent in English, and, like, that wasn't... Yeah, that's what she said. It surprised me, and I went home and started looking up... murder rate per 1,000 population statistics, and that's when I was surprised at how many cities in the U.S. are pretty high on that list.
Yeah, and I was looking at a lot of cities out in Colorado recently. Well, I guess last year when I was deciding what to do about work and where to go and what I wanted to do. Turns out Colorado has some very, very unsafe locations to live. Yeah.
There's one movie theater I think is not too safe there. It's a gun-free zone, though. So well,
exactly. I mean, I think that's one of the main issues. It's a gun-free zone. Yeah, they should change that. They should follow New Hampshire's lead, and I think so should many other states.
It's a shame because Colorado is a beautiful place.
It is a beautiful place. It is a beautiful place. But staying on that topic of safety, I did want to make mention of the safety level at Porkfest.
Yeah, and even though we might have been cavalier about AR-15s, but they do have a rule here. AR-15 has to be unloaded, and the pork rangers supply a red flag to put in the chamber to show that there's nothing in it. Because you can't walk around in public and not flag somebody. It's pretty much impossible with a rifle.
Especially with how many people are here, and so it is nice. Even though people have weapons and people are walking around with knives and people are walking around with guns, the greater theme is safety, and the greater theme I think is having that safety in a large group and being able to work together with people and not have the type of issues that you would have in a city if someone walked down the street with an AR-15.
Yeah, and it's big. There's 3,000 people here in a campground. It is
all sharing bathrooms, all buying food from the same vendors, and I think. Was there even anyone kicked out this year? I didn't hear of any.
I didn't hear about it. And I was a pork ranger monitoring the pork frequencies. I didn't hear about it. It's not a good place for a violent thug to come in. Somebody walking in here would look around and go, "Oh, I think I better get out of here."
Yeah,
it wouldn't
take them much longer than about 15 to 20 minutes to realize that they definitely should not be trying to hit a mark around these parts.
Yeah. So back to the schooling. So some of the subjects, like you mentioned, the firearms. Somebody did a talk here on what they taught their kid in homeschool, and about the different subjects between what the government school and the homeschool. And she rattled off a list of like very important subjects. Was firearms, emergency medical care, basic accounting, like half a dozen things that are just not really in the list, not seriously.
And if they are, they come with a heavy dose of what you should and shouldn't do.
Oh yes, not your. It's the should, not the.
It's the should and the shouldn't. The shouldn't is just as important, because that's, I think, where one of the big differences between homeschooling and public school comes in.
So you had earlier started showing me your medical pack. So we're going to save this for the show. So
okay.
So this is something that they don't teach you in the government high school.
Yeah, this is something that they don't teach you in government high school.
And you put this together.
Yeah, I did put this together, this little kit. The materials and all the things I have within it, not counting the knife on the back. Just threw that on for show, but in general, I would say within $100 to $130, depending on what exactly I have in it at the time. But this is a good little med kit. It's got a quick release on the top, so you can just quickly open it and reveal all of the lovely contents.
So show us what you got.
Oh,
this is
show me what I got. Okay.
This is an emergency. He gave me and my girlfriend a lesson on emergency medical small pack.
Well, these are the kind of things that I'm quite passionate about, especially as things turn perhaps in a direction that might require more people to possess a medical kit. I think it's something important and perhaps something that I will be selling eventually. Who knows?
Oh, that's an awesome idea. Yeah.
But starting it off, I have this lovely flashlight here. It has two modes. It has, of course, the regular mode, but it also has a nice work light. And this is perfect for late night medical treatment, something everyone should really keep with them at all times. I think is a good flashlight or a phone. It's a very important piece of equipment. Inside of the pack, I have various things. I have some high-quality tweezers, 2 different pairs, alcohol pads for cleansing. 2 of the most important things, of course, some rolled gauze and some rolled tape. These are essential, and a lot of people rely on Band-Aids, but I just want to point out how important it is to have tape that you can make a custom bandage with. You can wrap any part of your body.
For something that's beyond a scratch.
Right. And that's what this case is designed for. I have here a chest seal. This is for the event of a bullet injury. This can seal a bullet wound in the torso.
So a quick clot?
I don't believe this has quick clot in it.
But it's a pad.
It's a pad. It's a style of bandage that will allow even a damaged lung to continue to function for some time while someone waits to get an emergency treatment. And here I do have some hemostatic gauze. This is something good as well for like a serious trauma injury. It's good to have some hemostatic gauze. That's a type of gauze that stops bleeding, and it can definitely be a lifesaver. Be a lifesaver.
You can use that to pack.
Yeah, you pack the wound, and it's not going to soak up the blood like a regular gauze would. It's going to apply a chemical to the flesh, to the skin, to the blood that's going to coagulate it, and it's going to prevent further blood loss. Yeah. So other than that, I just have the basics, Q-tips, cotton pads, rubber gloves. On the side, I do have a large medical shears, and this is good in case you need to cut away clothing or fabric surrounding an injury area, and you can also use that to make splints and bandages very quickly.
It's a great size travel kit.
Yes. It's very small, very compact, pretty lightweight. When it's closed, it's quite sturdy as well. It's something you can hook on your belt. It's something you can hook on the outside of a backpack. And like I said, it does have a quick release tabs all over it. So it's very easy to pull away and give to someone, or pull away and use yourself without even taking your backpack off.
And you keep that in your car. You're just like, you're traveling, you have that with you. And you can grab it if you go hiking or...
Yeah, well, this is more of my day pack. I actually do have some more supplies in my vehicle. I have resupply for this, as well as some additional items that I would I might take a few of those depending on the hike. Like I have a quick form custom splint that you can adjust to anyone's leg, and it's very solid, or arm, and that's a good thing to have when hiking in the mountains, especially if you're in a small party.
And this is not something you learn in school.
This is absolutely not something you learn in school.
I did
learn about this a little bit when I went to my institution of higher education. So I did learn a few good things there.
That's good. But mostly you learned to sit down and shut up, how to be a good soldier or factory worker.
Well, they tried to teach me that in college as well, but I actually taught them how to respect their students instead. And
I can imagine.
Yeah, it was fun. It was fun. I quite enjoyed my last semester of college because I had a dreadful teacher, and we got some policies changed. Yes, the HVAC degree. Tech school, yeah. So it wasn't only tech that we learned, but also soft and some hard skills.
But it wasn't the traditional state university system. They're teaching a skill. The primary thing.
That's right.
Learning
Yes,
is a skill, a useful skill.
Technical education. Yeah, and like Keith mentioned earlier, I do have a degree in HVAC, heating, ventilation, and air conditioning. I have 2 years worth of experience in the commercial HVAC industry. So I've done some very large buildings, grocery stores, churches, and, factories, that type of thing, warehouses.
And you were talking about, like, one of your current interests now, you're looking into solar type and translating that and using that to do some solar work. Or you were talking about geothermal. Geothermal is pretty fascinating. And one of the key things that I am becoming interested in is natural home design, especially incorporating solar and geothermal and even just air systems that are non-reliant on power and actually function completely independently of any maintenance at all. Oh, that's cool. Yeah. Like they're passive, basically. Yeah, passive heating and cooling systems. Like, for instance, Keith was telling me about some people he knows who developed a specific type of house that heats and cools based on the flooring system that's used and a couple other things. But passive solar and passive cooling, it's also using mass. It's cool in the summer is incorporated in it. Yeah, that's always an interesting topic. And, he's using solar. And you see in our camper, we're solar, we're boondock set up. We have solar panel and a jackery. We're looking at where to go camping tomorrow. And the place we first contacted in Hip Camp, it's a fun way. Anybody ever heard of that? It's a private exchange. You join a club for free. And the guy came back and they said, there's no power, no water there. And like, well, that's what we want. Yeah, that's what we want. There's no. Yeah, he had a list in the amenities list for the site. It said, no power, no water, no cell phone, no toilet, no Wi-Fi, no laundry, nobody there to check you in, and bring everything out that you brought in. So I'm like, oh yeah, that's what we want. Up in the mountains in New Hampshire with supposedly a stunning sunset. Yes, there are a lot of those stunning sunsets up here. Definitely worth a trip up to the Northeast if you haven't been. I've really been enjoying it the last year or so, traveling around up here, visiting friends, making new friends, and attending Porkfest, which for the listeners of this show should be a huge draw, I would imagine. Yeah, I think there's a lot of like-minded in the Unsafe Space audience. I lost track of how many people were connected, either former guests or listeners. People come up to me and saying, oh, are you Keith? Like, yeah. Something like 20, it's a pretty high number. I think there was something like half a dozen people here are former guests. Wow. Well, for any other show hosts who might be listening, it's a great place to source guests. Yeah, I don't even want to say the number on top of my head. I haven't written them all down, but what happens at Porkfest, as far as Rebel Civics go, like every hour I get into a new conversation with the guy who's selling gold-backed money, and then somebody who's the head of secession for New Hampshire, and then so it's like.
And then there's just
thought-
like random street vendors selling bullets and alcohol in the middle of like a bunch of tents, and you can buy it for a fairly reasonable price.
Yeah, it was the ATF. Did you see the ATF
Yeah,
booth?
yeah, that was
His
hilarious.
name is the ATF. He's doing the. It was a walk-up site that sold alcohol. It wasn't exactly tobacco, and ammunition. And
He had quite a selection and supply of ammo, for sure.
Yeah.
Like, people around here have tons of ammo, and it's kind of cool to see. It's nice to know that there's enough supply of bullets.
It was fun because you hear the joke all the time, the ATF should be a convenience store. This guy actually said, I'm going to do that. And he's doing it. He's made an ATF convenience store.
He did it, and he was one of the most successful vendors here, I think.
Oh, really?
He,
I talked to him
he
the
made a
first
bunch
day.
of money. Yeah, he
Good
made a
for
bunch
him.
of money.
Good for him.
Yeah.
That's
That's
a good
rebel
business.
economics right there.
Rebel economics.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe we should have a show called Rebel Economics. The I got a conversation with the Goldback. The guy selling the Goldback money.
Interesting.
That for people that haven't heard of it, it's a plasticized version of money with gold, and a lot of people here are trading in it. And it's a New Hampshire Goldback. I'm going to do a show on that with it.
Great. Yeah, that'll be an interesting show for your
I
listeners.
think I'm going to call it Real Money.
Real Money. Ooh, that's a good name.
When he does his pitch, he holds up 2 coupons. He said, "This is gold. This is redeemable as gold. If you want it, you can melt it down, or you can trade it. This one is worth about $4 right now. Also, or you can have this $1 US. They're both certificates that we owe you something. The problem with the US one is this one expired in 1973. It's not actually worth anything."
Well, in addition to the Goldbacks, there's also a lot of silver in circulation here.
Oh, you see the little
Cubes, yeah, the little tiny little cubes.
How
Like,
much is one cube? They're like about that big.
there's like quarter-ounce cubes and stuff that you can buy. There's a really great individual here producing those, and there's a lot already in circulation of old silver coins from like the 1950s, 1960s, and that's a currency that is a lot more reliable than the USD, especially these days. So buy some while the banks are still keeping it low, everyone, and let's all profit from the inevitable.
Yeah, the people here definitely understand the real money thing. If you ask somebody here, would you take a gold back or fiat? Like they're like, I want gold. And there's people with Bitcoin. Might just happen to mention to somebody, and the guy at the next camp, he says, "I'm a urethra miner." And so that leads
there's
into an
bunches of
interesting
miners.
conversation.
There's miners everywhere, and they're mining like cryptos you've never heard of too.
Yeah, so
They're mining like I don't even know the name. Some guy told me yesterday the name of his crypto that he's mining it. It's so wild I forgot it.
I forgot the name.
I forgot the name. There's like new ones popping up everywhere. Yeah. So if you're into cryptocurrency, this is a wonderful place to come as well.
And you know, pretty much every vendor here accepts some forms of crypto, the popular ones.
Oh yeah, for sure. I witnessed someone just yesterday buying lunch with Bitcoin, and it was an easier transaction than if they had used cash, goldback, silver, or fiat money or a card or anything. Like, it just took seconds. Took seconds. Yeah.
We bought dinner yesterday with goldbacks.
Nice.
That was nice. Yeah.
What'd you get for dinner?
I had tuna, amazing tuna for camp food, seared ahi tuna on a salad.
Yum.
Big steaks. Yeah, for nine
yum.
goldbacks.
What a steal. 9 goldbacks. Actually, that's a lot of money.
But it was really good.
This was
it
the
was
silver
top
guy, right?
quality.
This was Silver Dave?
No. It was the healthy
Somebody
eating
else was making
camp.
ahi
It was one of
tuna.
it was called Healthy Eating.
Oh, I didn't see this one.
Yeah, and
that's
I
too
used
bad. I'll get them
goldbacks
next year.
I bought a glass of wine with goldbacks, and the guy said, "Oh, well, 1 goldback's too much," so he gave me 2 rounds of 9mm as change.
Oh yeah, and then weren't they like really nice bullets too, like vintage, like nice aluminum casing or something?
Yeah, so that's what he said anyway.
Might have just gave you 2 bullets.
I think I'm gonna go back. Does anybody have a magnet? But it was I kept it because it's a cool thing. Like that was his idea of change.
Yeah. Yeah, it's people will take a lot of stuff here for barter as well,
It's
which
a
is
trade.
a big emerging way of trading here, I think. And like the last couple of years, it seemed like people weren't as much into it from what I heard from people, but this year it seems like people are really picking up on it. Especially
Mm.
food vendors, they'll take stuff for food.
They've all learned, and most of them, because in New Hampshire, there's a large number of places that will take goldbacks. So
Really, I didn't know it was
Yeah.
starting to get adopted by businesses.
I heard there's a map you can look up businesses that'll take it, and using it for tips is popular. Like I said, you go in and say, would you
Yeah, there
like
you go.
gold or paper money as a tip? And from what I've heard, most people will say, "Oh, gold, yeah."
Well, I
How do
do
you do
kind of
that?
wonder, like, is it possible to pay with silver coins at a restaurant? Like, is that something you might get in trouble for, or is it allowed? If you have a United States federal silver coin and it's worth $32 or worth like $29, are you able to pay with that? And
Well, if it's a United States coin,
right, like a nice silver eagle or something.
and you could argue this is a place where you can quote. I'm paraphrasing slightly, and I don't have my Constitution with me, but no state shall make anything other than gold and silver coin as
Exactly.
for payment of debt.
Exactly.
So if they said you can't use a silver coin, you could pull out a Constitution and say, actually, you're not allowed to use the other thing. So a gold, that's a powerful argument for a gold back.
Mm-hmm. It is indeed.
It's not a coin; it's a piece of
Another
plastic.
nice thing about the goldbacks and something that they designed with them in mind is that it's made of plastic, and the gold is embedded in the plastic, so you can actually wash these. Like if they're in your pocket and they go through the washer, or if they get wet in the rain, or you can try and rip them. I've tried
they do-
mess them up, but you might be
doesn't
able to
rip
hurt it like
easily.
if you really tried. But it's not like a dollar. It's not fragile at all, and these will last for a long, long time.
And you won't if you try to tear it. It doesn't. And if you tore one into 700 pieces, all you'd have to do is just give it to them, and they would hand you a new one, and they would throw it in their melter and melt it down and get the gold back.
There you go. There you go. It's literally has gold in it. So
Because it has value. It has a real value. Tearing it in half, all it does, if you take a gold back and cut it in half, you now just have 2 half gold backs.
Now, one thing I did hear and notice about the gold backs is that they are significantly over spot price.
Yeah, I heard they were selling them for one goldback was $4 here, but all the vendors were also translating them as $4. So if you buy
Right.
in
Well,
bulk,
for around here, $4 is the going rate at the festival. But if you were to actually melt down the gold and weigh it, I've heard numbers as low as $1.70 to $2.
to melt it,
Yeah, that's like how much value of gold would actually be in the gold
I have
back.
to find out what the number is.
Right. So, but the main thing that they're charging for, in addition to the gold that's actually in it, is the tradability and also, to pay the artists, because these things are beautiful. They have a really detailed art on them, and through the work level that's gone into producing these, I definitely think it's worth a bit of a premium. But double the price of the included gold might be a little much there.
Oh, I'll find out that and get back to you.
Yeah, I'd like to hear what you have to say about it.
Yeah. Oh, I'm going to ask the goldback guy.
No, don't ask him because he'll cry. Ask someone else. Ask some of the vendors. Ask the guys down at the bottom of the hill with the white tent. They might tell you.
Each certificate has the amount of gold that's on it. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
you
The
actually
thing
don't
is,
have to
nobody
ask anybody.
bothers to look up what spot price would be for that amount of gold. And that's how they
Oh.
can get away with selling them for $4, even though they're
I'm
really.
a fact checker. Well,
I'd like to know if this was actually true or not.
Okay,
So,
I'll find out.
figure it
let
out.
you know.
Yeah, let me know.
Yeah, and I won't do it by asking. I may ask anyway.
You should ask him,
I'm
but
gonna find out
just be
both
aware
ways.
you might hurt his feelings a little.
Oh,
Yeah, he's a sensitive guy.
okay. I didn't think of that question because the thing does have the gold on it, and they have third-party verification. So we'll find out and get back to you. So you're going to go to PorcFest next year? Or are you thinking about it? I know we might be dead the zombie
Yeah, there's a
apocalypse
lot
could
of stuff
happen,
that's going to
a
happen
lot
in
could
between
happen.
here and then, I think.
I bought my tickets
Yeah.
yesterday.
Well, that's great. Yeah, I didn't buy a ticket this year, and I probably won't buy a ticket next year, even if I do go. I do my part
you
here.
hang out at the
I help
campground.
out. I hang out. I cook food. I collect firewood. So I'm a valuable member of the team.
Yeah. And you didn't go to the talks. You just met people.
I didn't go to the
s-
talks. I stayed around my camp. So I really didn't. I didn't go to any of the talks that I would have paid for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the meeting people is actually the primary reason to come.
Absolutely.
Not that the talks are fascinating.
Absolutely.
You can go listen to, I listened to David Friedman present a positive view of rights. Now, that's not the way to get my girlfriend to want to move to New Hampshire. The hydroponics class and the yoga are better for
Yeah,
that.
those are better. For
and a
anyone
weekend-
who's interested in those things a little bit more, like hydroponics, yoga, spirituality, and walking in nature, this is a great place to meet like-minded people and a great place to enjoy perhaps a new style of yoga.
Yeah. I'm not a yoga guy. I'd rather listen to David Friedman than go to yoga. Or Gene Epstein. I went to a Soho Forum debate with Scott Horton and Kathy Young.
Oh, very nice.
What a romp. It was a debate on the if the resolution was if Russia invaded another country, the U.S. should respond with sanctions and sending weapons and whatever means necessary to repel the invasion. So I went to a debate with Scott Horton and Kathy Young, the Soho Forum debate, moderated by Gene Epstein. And that's a fun
Quite
thing
the
about
speaker list. Quite the speaker list.
speaker list. And it's so one of the things, even though it's really about meeting people, like some of the people that I chatted with, like Jeremy Kauffman, who's running for Senate, chatted with him for a while.
Yeah, there's some real big names here, and if you want to meet, Scott Horton was here.
Horton,
I mean,
like-
oh my goodness.
Scott Horton, Gene Epstein, like a couple times. I did a talk in the classroom once a session, and like Gene Epstein comes up at the end and he says, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I only saw the last. I wanted to see it. I wish I was here from the beginning." It was like,
there you go.
"Hi, Gene." Like,
Yeah, and Keith's
Gene
show needs
doesn't
more
know who I am,
promotion.
but
Yeah,
I
there you
definitely
go.
know.
Maybe Gene can talk about your show. Get you out there. Get a
Yes.
few more listeners.
So the debate was Scott Horton. With anybody familiar with him, it's like debating the encyclopedia with like super powerful arguments. And Kathy Young, who I've been reading for years. I won't say anything about Kathy Young, except I'll say how the debate came out. And this is biased because here. But the way the debates work in the Soho Forum, they call it Oxford style, where the audience votes for, against, or neutral on the resolution before the debate. Then after the debate, they have another vote, and whoever wins more to their side of the debate, that's who the debate winner is.
That's how all debates should be like that. Except, well, I guess
It's measurable.
you could
It's
corrupt the
measurable.
crowd. You could corrupt the crowd, like if you send in a bunch of bad actors to vote one way.
They have to be at Porkfest, so yeah, it's possible.
It works here. It works here. It
It's
might not work
possible
like
here.
in a larger scale.
Yeah, I don't know. It probably can't work in any significant amount, and the numbers would make it hard for that to have been done because this one ended with Scott Horton getting 96%,
Oh,
and Kathy Young getting 1.6. They used the decimal because
Out.
so it was 1.6% to 96%.
Ooh.
It's like, Gene, you could just round that off to 2%, I said.
May as well,
So, yeah, the audience here is really not in favor of wars in general.
Yeah, they're not at all. And that's one of the nice things about being in a community that has so many weapons, but is also so peaceful. You're not going to have angry, militant people. Everyone here has guns so that they can keep things relaxed and keep themselves safe. It's not about being a militia. It's not about being an army. It's about enjoying your life and standing up for your rights.
I talked to there was a Defend the Guard in the main pavilion, and I talked to all three people that were on that later. Like, these are active National Guardsmen, who agree with Scott Horton. Like, you know, how the National Guard, turns out 60% of the National Guard, 60% of people deployed overseas are National Guard. They're supposed to be taking care of their state. And the one guy was in a part of a drone unit. He was talking about 60% of drone strikes are on false targets, which kind of turned him off to the whole drone thing.
Well, that would turn off any sane person to the whole drone thing.
Yes. And so this is a crowd, even though there's a lot of ex-military people here that are on the Porkfest side. You know, Ron Paul was...
some pretty high-profile ex-military guys as well. And, you know, if you guys are cool enough, you can definitely come by and meet them. We'll introduce you. So, but you got to be cool enough, so make sure you bring your A game.
Yeah. I mean, there's a reason Ron Paul got the largest number of donations when he ran for president from the U.S. military. Like, that tells you what active duty people think. They've figured out, you know, if they were gung-ho going in, they got to Afghanistan, a lot of them changed their mind. They see what's really going on. So
yeah, and they see what's really going on in a way that even when you hear about it, like, even though I've heard about how things go, I really honestly have no clue about the reality, like the harsh reality of how these wars have gone, because I've been here my whole life, and I've been in a position where I've had no need or desire to go into the military. But some of the stories I've heard from old coworkers or, you know, people who are in the training programs, especially these days when there's a lot of mandates and requirements in order to stay as an active duty personnel.
Like vaccination.
Yeah, stuff like that. Yeah,
deploying overseas wherever they decide. The Pentagon decides.
Yeah, wherever the biggest stash of oil, opium, or terrorists might be.
Yeah, under the theory that, you know, America has to pick up some 2-bit country every couple years and kick its ass so that everybody knows we mean business.
Yeah, well, they might have been getting a little tired from that in the last couple of years, at least the people. And it's nice to be around a group that won't stand for that type of nonsense for much longer. And not in a violent sense, but in a peaceful sense. Because violence, I don't think, is the answer. But in order to be peaceful, you got to have something to hold up that, you know, that threat, or not even that threat, but that defense.
And that's what the people are supposed to be. The people are supposed to be the militia. You know, I one of the interesting conversations I got in was actually with an attorney we were talking about what the Second Amendment means, and his interpretation of the militia part is that standing armies are illegal. That was an outlier one. Like, that's interesting. I'm thinking through that one. I kind of like it.
I kind of like that idea too.
He's a constitutional law attorney.
Yeah, a lot of constitutional scholars here. A lot of people who are involved with natural law, personal law,
tax law.
Well, and also tax unlaw.
Tax law.
Yeah.
I heard some friends were talking about that.
I heard a few people mention that as well. Just a few, not many at all.
Yeah. And the one clearly legal way is secession, to get out of income tax.
Right. And so if there's a bunch of people who do want to get out of income tax and they want to go about it through a legal method, then they have every right to do so, and they should not be harassed. They should not have VTOL warships flying over them while they're talking about these things.
Low, slow.
And landing configuration.
And I did keep an eye out for the next day or two. So we figured if we see some clean-cut 30-year-old buff guy in jeans when it's 95 degrees.
95 degrees, yeah.
And a brand new Ron Paul t-shirt, that's a fed.
Yeah, especially if he's really, really friendly. You got to watch out for the really friendly ones. They want to know all about you, your best friend. They'll buy you a drink. They'll buy you 2 drinks. Yeah.
Yeah, so if you hear where that Osprey went, we'll have to find out.
Yeah, I'm sure somebody knows. I'm sure somebody here knows what actually happened with the Osprey conspiracy. I
was hoping to keep it as a conspiracy theory. Because all my conspiracy theories turned out to be true, so I need some new ones.
I don't know. My theory on the Osprey, I don't want that to be true.
Okay. All right. I think we should wrap it up.
All right, Keith. All right.
I hope you come next year, but if not, on your walkabout, however long this lasts, maybe we'll see you somewhere down south.
Yeah, I'd love to stop by, visit you in Florida, perhaps in the fall.
Okay.
We'll see how things are shaking out.
Shaking up in your semi-retirement exploration.
Yes, temporary retirement.
Retirement. Yeah, it's a pause. We'll call it a pause.
Well, thanks for having me as a guest. It's been a blast, and I hope that for the listeners who enjoyed this episode, that you consider coming to Porkfest next year. Maybe I'll see you.
All right, that's good. All right, thanks.
Thanks, Keith.
Thanks for sticking around until the end. If you're new to Unsafe Space, check out our deep content library that includes discussions with everyone from James Lindsay to Brett Weinstein. And please consider helping to fund our work by visiting unsafespace.com/donate. You can find us on a variety of social media platforms, and you can find a community of like-minded individuals on our Unsafe Space Discord server, which is open to financial supporters at any level. We hope to see you there.
Warning. This is an unsafe space. Dangerous ideas have been detected. The content of this production does not meet WHO health and safety standards. Please report to a United Nations Sanitization Center immediately. Association with the following individuals is strictly prohibited. Experts who benefit from printing money agree that printing money does not cause price inflation. Trust me, just 2 more weeks to slow the spread of monkeypox. If you think about it, no one should be allowed to express opinions. But don't. Think about it, I mean. That's not your job. Thinking has been scientifically proven to be less efficient than compliance. Science, scientific, and scientifically are registered trademarks of the World Economic Forum. Unauthorized use is prohibited. Computer voice courtesy. Never mind, that last line is fake news. Please disregard it and return to your safe space immediately. There will be cake.